The Falklands conflict of 1982 was a brief but intense war between Argentina and the United Kingdom over the Falkland Islands, a remote group of islands in the South Atlantic Ocean. Although the fighting lasted only 10 weeks, the causes of the conflict were deep-rooted and complex. The war occurred because of a long-standing sovereignty dispute, growing Argentine nationalism, political and economic crises in Argentina, British miscalculations and the failure of diplomacy. A long-standing sovereignty dispute. The Falkland Islands had been under British control since 1833, but Argentina never accepted British rule. Argentina claimed the islands, known as the Islas Malvinas, as part of its national territory, arguing that it inherited Spain's colonial claims after gaining independence. For Britain, the islands were legally British, with a population that overwhelmingly identified as British. Over time, the sovereignty dispute became symbolic, especially for Argentina, where the Falklands represented national pride and unfinished business from the colonial era. Argentine nationalism and domestic crisis. In the early 1980s, Argentina was governed by a military junta facing serious internal problems. Economic recession and high inflation. Public protests and declining support. International criticism over human rights abuses. The Argentine leadership believed that reclaiming the Falklands would boost national unity, restore pride, and strengthen the regime's legitimacy. The invasion was seen as a low-risk way to rally public support. British signals of weakness. Britain unintentionally encouraged Argentine action through a series of policy decisions. Planned cuts to the Royal Navy. The proposed withdrawal of HMS Endurance, the only British warship in the South Atlantic. Willingness to negotiate sovereignty in earlier years. These actions led Argentina to believe that Britain lacked the will to defend the islands militarily. The invasion and miscalculation. On April 2, 1982, Argentine forces invaded and occupied the Falkland Islands. The junta expected Britain to protest diplomatically but not respond with force due to the island's distance from the UK. This assumption proved disastrously wrong. The invasion shocked the British public and government, transforming the issue into one of national honor, international law, and the right of the islanders to self-determination. Failure of diplomacy. After the invasion, intense diplomatic efforts, led mainly by the United States and the United Nations, attempted to prevent war. However, Argentina refused to withdraw without sovereignty guarantees. Britain insisted on withdrawal before negotiations. With neither side willing to compromise, diplomacy collapsed and armed conflict became inevitable. The role of leadership in politics. For Prime Minister Margaret Thatcher, failure to act would have weakened Britain's international credibility and her government's authority at home. For the Argentine junta, backing down would have exposed its weakness and worsened domestic instability. Political pressures on both sides pushed events toward war. The Falklands conflict happened because of a historic territorial dispute combined with nationalism, political crisis, misjudgment, and diplomatic failure. Argentina underestimated Britain's resolve, while Britain underestimated Argentina's willingness to use force. These miscalculations turned a long-running dispute into a short but intense war. The conflict remains a powerful reminder of how domestic politics and national identity can drive nations into war over distant and seemingly minor territories.